I hope you could appreciate just how quickly and efficiently we were able to insert those schedules into this model template in the last video, and it was fun. So now that we have them all in place, what we're going to do now is focus on those orange markers or font colors that we put in place that are going to mark the connections and allow us to connect this all together and link it really fast. So as you can see, we're set up on the inputs page here. And what we're going to do for this demonstration is follow through the order that matches the flow of information in the model. So we'll start from the inputs page and then progress over to the model page. So the first marker that we can check is right here, the global units marker. And it's just meant to be a quick check to make sure that we intended to have US dollar thousands in this model. So we can quickly use the blue-black toggle, which is control semicolon, to flip it over to black font right here, like that. Next up, let's scoot over here where it has the year 2023. Our intention is for this to be the input for the periods for the model, but we'd like for the labels to be black. So again, let's use the blue-black toggle here, control semicolon, and just to change it over to black. Perfect, that is all done. So let's head over to the top of the model tab here, get started on the revenue schedule. So let's start off here on the global units marker right there. And again, we'll use the blue-black toggle, control semicolon, to flip this over to black. Now we're going to do a bunch of linking back to the inputs page. So let's start with this year, 2023, put in an equal sign and pop back over to the inputs page and link it to this just like that. For the days in the period here, let's put in an equal sign, again, back to the inputs page and connect up to this cell right here. Then we can do a copy, highlight all the way across and down to inflation, Alt-ES, and we're going to paste the formulas. Perfect. Let's go down to sales volume growth now, right here. Put in an equal sign, back to the inputs page. We'll find sales volume growth right there and hit enter. Now we can do a fast fill right, which is Control-Shift-R, which effectively is a copy paste all the way across. We can also grab plant capacity here, put in an equal sign over to the inputs page and link to plant capacity, enter. Now Control-Shift-R for a fast fill right. Now the last one to connect up on this particular schedule is down here, pricing increases, equals, over to inputs, find the pricing increases here, enter, and now fast fill right all the way across. Now let's just zoom out here really quickly so we can make sure that we see the entire schedule just like this. What we want to do now is use the auto color functionality, but make sure you don't auto color the whole sheet. What we want to do is select across the whole schedule and use auto color selection, which is Control-Alt-A, just like this. Perfect. So by auto coloring this schedule really quickly, we can also confirm that what we have here are worksheet links, and they're now all indicated with green font. We do see a little bit of orange in the bottom, but that's intentional. That is the capacity check for the operational capacity for this company. So for the next video, let's scoot down and get started on the cost schedule. We'll see you over there. So we're super focused on getting this model connected at this point. In this video, we're going to go through the cost schedule quickly and then down and complete the income statement. So we can adjust the global units marker right here with a blue-black toggle, which is Control semicolon, and change that to black. Now for this year, right here, 2023, let's just put in an equal sign and we're going to go up to the revenue schedule, which is just above, and link it here. But let's tap the F4 key a couple of times to make sure it stays locked into row 7 and hit enter, just like that. Now what we can do is tap the scroll lock key and just slide the screen down so we can see what we're doing here. And we want to adjust this color to black. So we can use again the blue-black toggle, which is Control semicolon, to get that to black. In fact, this year is going to come up in a moment on the income statement. So let's just do a copy of this year while we're here. Use the page down button to go down to the income statement, do a paste, and then back up to the cost schedule, and we'll continue on right here with these orange cells. For these cells, we can link them up to the revenue schedule, starting with sales volume. Put in an equal sign, use the page up button, and we can see sales volume right here. Let's hit enter, and now we can see inflation right here. Let's put in the equal sign again, and go up to inflation, which is right there, and hit enter. Now we can copy these, Control C, highlight across, Alt-ES, and down to a paste special formulas, and hit enter. Perfect. So what we want to do now is use the scroll lock key, just to slide everything back up like this. We want to head over here, and we're going to zoom out a little bit. We want to be able to see the whole cost schedule, just like that. Let's use that auto color functionality again. So we'll select the entire cost schedule right down to the bottom. Remember not to autocolor the sheet. So we're only going to do Control Alt A here, and we can see all the orange colors have turned to black. Perfect. So let's scoot down to the income statement now and just kind of roll that up so we can see everything that we're doing. Let's do a little zoom in as well so we can just work really easily in this schedule. Perfect. So let's touch up this global units marker with the blue-black toggle and put it to black there. And now for revenue, we'll put in an equal sign and we can just use the page up button to get to revenue right up here. On the revenue schedule, hit enter. And now for costs, we're going to put equals negative and connect up to these total costs right here on the cost schedule. Now that we've put those in place, what we can do is just quickly select both of them and use a fast fill right to copy all the way across. Now we're going to do a bunch of linking over to the Inputs tab. Let's go here, starting with SG&A equals negative, and go over to the Inputs page here, find SG&A right there, hit enter, copy, and we're going to highlight all the way across and down, Alt-ES for paste special formulas, and hit enter. Now let's connect up the depreciation. Again, equals negative over to the Inputs page. Let's find depreciation on the list here, hit enter, and now we can do Control-Shift-R for a fast fill right. Interest expense will be really similar. Equals negative over to the Inputs page. We're going to grab interest expense from the list here, hit enter, fast fill right, which is Control-Shift-R. Now let's connect up the taxes. Equals negative for the current tax. Over here, grab current tax levered from the list, hit enter, copy, highlight across and down, Alt-ES, down to formulas, and hit enter. Perfect. As you probably guessed, we're going to run the auto color now. So let's pop up to the top here, select the entire income statement all the way down, and remember just Control-Shift-A for auto color the selection, and we can see all the orange has switched over to a mix of black and green. Perfect. So we're really on a roll here. We have almost this entire model connected together. The only thing remaining is the DCF schedule, which we'll do over in the next video. So we're all set up down here on the DCF schedule, which is the last schedule that we have to connect here on the model tab. And all that time that we spent preparing these schedules is paying off now. We can just let our eyes be drawn to that orange font and focus on it and make sure that those connections are in place. Let's get started. Let's start off with the blue-black toggle right here on the global units marker and put that into black, and then head over here. We want to connect EBITDA. Let's put in an equal sign, use the page up button to connect to EBITDA right there and hit enter. Scroll lock can bring this right back up so we can see what we're doing. Now notice that the current taxes here and the capital expenditure are both being subtracted to get to unlevered free cash flow. So we can put in an equals negative sign in here and then pop over to the inputs page and find the current tax unlevered here and hit enter. Then we can copy and paste this down to get the CapEx. Now the cash from working capital here is a positive number. So we're just going to put in an equal sign, pop over to the inputs page and find that line item here down at the bottom and hit enter. Now we have all of these completed. We can copy these cells, highlight across for the orange area, Alt-ES, and paste special formulas. Perfect. Let's now move over here and connect this year. We're going to put in an equal sign, use the page up button, and we can just connect in here to the schedule above, which is the income statement 2023, hit enter. Let's use the scroll lock just to roll things back down. Now for this terminal value growth rate and the weighted average cost of capital, we're going to find both of those over on the outputs page because those are the two values that we're going to sensitize for the data table, which will be coming up in a moment. So let's start with the terminal value growth rate. Put in an equal sign, pop over to the outputs page, and you can connect to it right here, 2%. Let's hit enter, and now we can copy and highlight down, Alt-ES, paste special formulas, and hit enter, and we're done that section. Just a few small connections left. So let's go down here to net debt, and we're going to put in equals negative to subtract it. Pop over to the outputs page, and we can find the net debt right here. Let's hit enter. So next up, we have shares outstanding right over here. And so we're going to put in equal sign, pop over to the outputs page again. There's shares outstanding right on the right-hand side. Let's hit enter. And finally down here, the current price, same idea, just a straight equal sign over to the outputs page. And there it is right at the bottom. Hit enter and we're set. So next up, let's just quickly run auto color. Auto color selection, in fact, we're going to select this entire schedule right down to the bottom, Control Alt A, and we can see what's happened here. Most of the orange is flipped over to a mix of green and black, which is expected, but we do have a little bit of orange up here. Let's investigate. Tap F2, we can see that we've hard-coded a 12 and a 31 in here, which is absolutely fine. And then over here, we've just hard-coded a 12. Let's just select these and use the blue-black toggle to put them into black. Great job. We were able to get through those orange colors or connections really quickly. And then the auto color functionality actually helped us check our work to make sure that all of these cells were coming out in black and green font. Let's hop over to the outputs page next. And what we're going to do is do a little bit of a review on data tables and get that section connected and working. Now, as we mentioned in the last video, we're going to be using a data table here in order to drive the sensitivity analysis that we're doing on this outputs page. So we're going to need to check a couple of settings in Excel. And also, we're going to give you some little tips here to avoid possible errors that are really common when people are using data tables. Let's dive in and take a look. So let's check your Excel settings first. So we're going to tap Alt F and then T on our keyboard to get into the Excel options. And then we tap the down arrow to get to formulas right here. You want to make sure that you're set on workbook calculation to automatic. Once that's set, please click the OK button here, and then we'll move on to the next step. In fact, given the importance of that Excel setting, you can see here on enterprise value, we have a footnote number 2. And if we just use the page down button, we can also see here footnote number 2 at the bottom says, this table requires the workbook calculation to be set to automatic in order to update. Given that that's important, we always make sure that we include those footnotes. And the footnote functionality in Macabacus is absolutely excellent. If you haven't checked it out before, you can make this footnote right here using the footnote toggle, and the one at the bottom uses the footnote cycle. So first things first, let's go down here to the global units marker and use the blue-black toggle to put that into black. Here for enterprise value, we can put in an equal sign and pop over to the model tab and connect right into that value right here and hit enter. Next up, let's get our data table working. As we can see in the top left corner, if we tap F2, this is connected over to the enterprise value. So effectively, we're going to fill this table with a number of values for enterprise value right here. Now, the reason that we colored these cells here as orange is because they've been pasted as values. If we tap F2, we can see the values in here. We want to get this working as a proper data table. So if you haven't used data tables before, or if it's been a little while, this could be a nice review. We're going to start right here on the top left corner, select all the way across and all the way down like this. So we can use the keyboard to set up the data table. So we're going to tap the Alt key, and then right up here, we want A for data. And over on the right-hand side, we want a W for what if analysis, and finally T for data table. It brings up this dialog box here, but there's an even faster way to get into it. Let's tap Escape and investigate. In fact, a faster shortcut that's really easy to remember is Alt DT for data table. Let's try that, Alt DT, and the same dialog box comes up. Now the row input cell is going to be up here, the terminal value growth rate. Hit the tab key. For the column input cell, we're going to select right here, the weighted average cost of capital, and let's hit enter. The only last thing to take note of here is the orange font that's right here in this top left corner. It's placed there as a reminder that we may want to change that to white font to hide it from view since it's not needed for the people that are reading this particular page. So let's do some auto coloring quickly. And we can just use auto color sheet here to save a little bit of time. So Control Alt S will get that done. And right away we can see a little bit of orange coloration here. These are just partial inputs because we're subtracting or adding an increment. So let's use the blue-black toggle to flip those back over to black. And here, back over to black as well. And these ones on the side and these ones here below. All set. Now let's address that little reminder that was right here. In order to put this into white font, we can use the font color cycle, which is Control single quote, and we're going to tap it twice to put that into white font. Perfect. So everything's connected and working. We have the Excel settings properly configured now, But what we want to talk about in the next video are some critical warnings to go through about data tables. There's some really common errors that people make when they're putting data tables together, and they can lead to big discrepancies in the model outputs. Let's check that out in the next video. So as we mentioned in the last video, there are some really common and critical errors that sometimes get made when people use data tables. We discussed these in our Audit a Financial Model with Macabacus course, but it's really important that we review them again here just to make sure that we don't fall into some of these traps. Now, as you can see in our model here, we have a terminal value growth rate of 2%, and a weighted average cost of capital of 13.5%. And we also have our data table perfectly centered on these values of 2% and over here, 13.5%. Now, it's really common for people to want their table to be always centered around those values. So sometimes what they do is link the X and Y axis for their table up to the row input cell in the column input cell. So let's demonstrate this for a moment. Let's take the 2% here and put an equal sign in and link it up to the terminal value growth rate. And then for the weighted average cost of capital, we'll put an equal sign up and link it up to this value right here. Now, this is the common mistake that many people make. And in fact, you may have seen that the numbers in the data table were actually moving. And in fact, we can tell there's a problem already by looking at this value in the center, which is 129 million, and it doesn't match this value of 124 million. In fact, the reason why this particular wiring is so dangerous in Microsoft Excel is because when you put it in place, Excel does not generate an error message, yet every one of these figures in this table are now incorrect. So this is a very critical error that often comes up right at the end of a model on an outputs page like this one that's usually getting presented to the stakeholders that are involved with this project or this company that we're analyzing. Just so you understand why this causes errors, we've directed Excel up to here, the row input cell, to make temporary changes to modify the table. But every time that it modifies this particular cell, the axis here is also moving. Similarly, when the computer modifies the weighted average cost of capital there, the axis over on this side right here is also moving. This creates total confusion for the computer. So let's clear these arrows now and fix this by hard coding a 2% in here and hard coding here 13.5%. And now all of these figures are perfectly correct. We really wanted to take the time to highlight that particular issue for you because it can be common. And as you could see by how much the figures moved inside that table, it can lead to really big errors. In the next video, we're going to jump over to the cover page. There's just a couple little things to put in place there and check in order to wrap up this process. We'll see you there.